Member of the state legislature and a familiar face on this show is our guest for this segment. Marty is with us today. Marty Quinn, good to have you, my friend.
Nice to be here. Thank you, Sam.
How's life in the fast lane?
It's good. It's busy here at home and also at the Capitol. So busy times.
Well, all right. Let's get down to it. These are not good times for the folks in Oklahoma. Certainly not easy times for the guys and gals in the legislature. But I'm going to say something right now and get this out of the way. Marty, I've known you long enough that this won't offend you, but we knew, based on some of the things that came out of legislative action as recently as 5 years ago, that this day was coming. We knew this. We knew back then that if incoming revenue didn't match needs, and we continued with the silliness of tax cuts and tax cuts and tax cuts, even when members of the legislature and the same party were saying, we can't continue to do this, we knew we were going to hit a wall. We're there.
Mm-hmm. Well, hindsight's always 20/20, so it's easy for us to look back and see what we should and should not have done. The one thing that if you went back 5 years ago, or let's just go back to I've been in the legislature now for 7 years, you go back to that period of time, I think we've had about one of those years has had a positive revenue flow. But when you look at that 6-year period of time, or the 6 sessions that we've been involved with, our economy has not been a good economy. So you can't just say that tax cuts were the reason for that.
No, I didn't mean to imply that. But when Doerfinger was over there warning us 5 years ago, look, guys, we got to start taking steps now to broaden our incoming revenue base. Nobody listened.
Well, and one of the other major components of that, Sam, is that if you want to look at revenue streams, if you want to look at cuts, one of the things that they have not been willing to do is we generally spend something in the neighborhood of about $2 billion in tax incentives, rebates, and tax credits. And while the process has started, that we review some of those, this year, unless we take legislative action, there's going to be a significant number, meaning in the billions of dollars, that we'll pay out in those incentives and rebates and credits. Many of our individuals are asking the question that, well, we've been cutting agencies. Why can't you go back to those tax credits and say this year we're going to have a 5% or a 10% cut to those incentive plans? Now, you have to make sure that you're doing some of those things legally, but I think that that's something that ought to be on the table and we ought to have serious discussions about.
At the time we're taping this, last night and again today in the Tulsa World and the Daily Oklahoman, Joy Hoffmeister is talking about, I think it was an $89 million cut education has taken since February. She's saying that by June that'll be up to $100 million. That's just education. We got state prisons, we got state police, we got infrastructure, we got all kinds of problems out there that need money. What are we going to do about it?
Well, everybody has their number, Sam, and what I would tell you, whether you're a person that's on the right side or a person that's on the left side, whether you're in state agencies, whether you're outside of state agencies, what you have to realize is that people come up with numbers to promote what it is that they want to promote. The reality is we do need to put more money into education. The fight that I've been having this year is that I think that we ought to have a balanced tax structure. That means we start at the top and we work our way down. As long as you leave special interest off of the table, as long as our leadership is not going to go to oil and gas, the wind subsidies that we've paid out billions of dollars to, and will continue to pay those kind of dollars long into the future over the next 10 years. Even with the success that we had with the zero emission tax credit ending July 1, we still have not brought a number of those special interest groups to the table. And that alone will give us a huge bump along with some of the other things, whether you're for the gas tax, whether you're for the cigarette tax. If you don't bring the special interest groups to the table, we're going to have a huge hole to fill. And the only way that you fill that if you don't have revenue is with cuts. And in my opinion, this is not the year for cuts. We need to find revenue, but do not put it all on the backs of the average citizen back home, because the vast majority of conservatives, when they were knocking on the doorsteps 10 years ago, when we started moving to the direction of taking over the House, the Senate, and the governor's office. When that movement started, and even in 2010 when I ran, you were knocking on doors and those conservatives were saying, we're not going to allow the special interest groups to affect us. Well, we have the House, we have the Senate, we have the governor's office, and to this date, special interest, the large special interest groups are not to the table.
You don't think that they've been involved, though, in the demise of our state in terms of the financial wizardry or the shell game?
Oh, I mean, when you're receiving the kind of tax dollars that many of those groups are, obviously if it's had an effect, they would tell you that they've had a positive effect as well. But I saw an information piece just this week that showed we're doing our share, and that was oil and gas that brought that information out. The reality is, so are the citizens of Oklahoma. So if the citizens of Oklahoma that go to work every morning, they don't have a lobbyist representing them, all they have is a House of Representative member or a state senator. When those individuals, they don't get to collectively come together with a lot of power and a lot of money, they have to rely on that legislator. And right now the leadership is allowing the special interest to have too much effect.
Marty, permit me, we have a record number right now, a record number of children who go to school hungry every day. We have a record number of men and women looking for work and can't find it. We have corporations that won't come to Oklahoma because they say you don't have the educational infrastructure we need, that we want to provide the jobs to fulfill our goals. We're caught in some kind of time warp here, some kind of loop, and I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how to fix it, but I do know that something needs to be done. We need to change our thinking or something.
Well, I think there's some social ills that, Sam, if you want to say that there are children that are coming to our schools hungry. When they get to school, they're fed.
Not in all cases.
In many cases.
In many cases. Arizona is a prime example where they've started this shame feeding. You know, if you can't pay, they toss the meal. That's not going to happen in Oklahoma, but it's beginning to happen in other states. Arizona was the first. Now North Dakota's looking at it, and I'm concerned we're going to see more of that across the country. The thinking needs to be to help these youngsters. I'm not talking about freebies. There are parents or guardians somewhere that need a job and they can't find work.
Well, Sam, there's lots of proof, I think, that is contrary to that. I think that the reason, if you just look at it from this perspective, I think the reason that we have the number of immigrants that are coming to the U.S. is because of those jobs. They come to Oklahoma for those jobs. I think that there's a significant percentage of our population that have found how to beat the system and are not looking for jobs.
I can't lay this on the immigrants because I know I've seen the surveys from 2012 where immigrants, and I'm talking about legals and illegals, paid almost $900,000 in state and local taxes.
I'm using the immigrants as an example. They're coming to Oklahoma. They're coming to other states because of the jobs. Those people that are not working in many cases because they don't want to work. And the reason for that is because they can milk the system. And those are things those are facts. Those things are happening.
Okay.
But there are jobs out there as long as people are willing to work.
I'm sorry, I wish we had a lot more time, but I got a minute and a half to get two quick things in. On the way to the studio from Tulsa today, I'm going over some rough road on the interstate, bumpy, cut-up road that they're out there trying to fix right now. We don't have way stations working in this part of the state. I don't know if they work anywhere in Oklahoma now. Wouldn't it pay the future of the infrastructure of our freeways if we had way stations back in place?
There is legislation, and I don't remember if it passed last time or if it passed earlier on in the session, but there are some things that they are trying to do to make sure that we take care of that. And
I'm sorry, what does that signal mean? Oh, okay, I didn't know what this meant. I thought that meant, pull a rabbit out. Anyway, the last thing is, we have a lot of rest homes, nursing homes in Oklahoma that when a patient dies and they're left with medication, they either flush it down the toilet or they toss it in the trash. Ohio and Iowa have started programs where they take these medications that are left over and they find a way to redistribute those medications that have not been utilized to folks who need them and can't afford them. Should Oklahoma take that on, yes or no?
I think as long as you were able to secure that in a proper way, that might be a possibility.
Marty, we're out of time. Thank you.
Thank you too.
We'll
Appreciate
talk
you.
more later. Watch for the weather tonight.
Okay, thanks.
That's all the time we have for this edition. We'll see you next time.